not many of this situation. I look forward to everyone's feedback. Anyway, here goes. I am 37. My wife is 34. We have been together 9 years, married 6 years. Things were great until about a year after we got married. First, her desire dropped to the point it rarely happened. Then she started pushing me away, literally. I would go to snuggle or give her a hug and she would push me away and tell me to leave her alone. This went on. Sometimes it would get better and then worse, so I chalked it up to adjusting to married life. However, in the back of my mind I always thought this was strange as we lived together before we were married. Years passed, 2 children later, and it has gotten much worse. There is pity bonding once every 3 to 4 months. When I hug her, she just stands there with her arms at her side. Sometimes she will put her head on my chest if I'm lucky. She is now angry most of the time and screams at me at the drop of a hat. Last week I was away on business for 4 days. Only happens 2 times per year, and when I came home, she wouldn't say hi to me. She just told the kids to say hi to me. I unpacked, and as soon as the kids she babysits for went home, she shot out the door and said I need to get out of here before I freak out. I said, well, that's fine, but I haven't seen for a few days and I wanted to give you a hug. She told me she didn't need a hug from me and left. When she came back, I was supportive and asked if she was okay and why she had such a bad day. She then screamed at me and said I should know better to ask that question. After a period of her screaming at me, I told her that was inappropriate and walked away and didn't talk to her the rest of the evening. She did apologize and over the weekend was somewhat approachable. Then on Monday, she screamed and swore at me when I asked if 1 p.m. would work for going to my mom's for Mother's Day, again stating I should know how the family works by now and that's when the kids nap. Keep in mind, the previous day she told me either lunch or dinner would work. When I pointed this out, she said 11 a.m. is lunch and I should have told my mother that. I never eat lunch at 11 a.m., so not sure where that came from. Anyway, I think you get the picture. Every day there is a new rule I have to follow, and if I don't, I am an idiot, and she either yells, makes a derogatory comment, or tells me I should know this. She says nothing is wrong and she is happy. She doesn't think anything is wrong. She won't see a marriage counselor and refuses to talk about it. I'm not sure what to do anymore. I am so lonely at the moment. My kids are the only thing keeping me there. If I left, I would get stuck paying child support and alimony for our 2 kids. Sorry being long-winded. I could go on for days with this. I have tried the ultimatum and her response is deal with it or divorce me. I've drawn the line many times. I even left. Her response is the same. In fact, she says the problem is me. I'm too sensitive and don't like to be told what to do. The thing is, I don't know anyone who likes to be told what to do. I am more sensitive than most men, and sometimes I almost buy into it and think that the issue is me, but then I realize no one should be treated that way regardless of what is going on in the relationship. I have tried everything. Being nice, drawing the line, legal action. The answer is always the same. My wife is someone who doesn't back down from anything, even if she knows she's wrong. She won't get help until she is ready, but honestly, I think we're close, which I also why I don't think I am enabling. I set clear boundaries, and when they are broken there are repercussions. After our fights, I told her it's not acceptable and didn't actively engage in conversations with her. She knew it was wrong and cried. Yes, this is a sign of depression, but the circumstances also tell me that she is starting to understand the gravity of the problem. Either that, or she is a hell of an actor. Based on this, I am willing to give it a little more time. She has changed her hair, shorter, and she does go to the store during the week and on weekends. However, she always comes back with groceries, and I did check to see if she was cheating, and everything comes back as no. One thing I didn't disclose is more about me. I do have a very rare autoimmune disease that causes severe pain and degradation of all the cartilage in my body, as well as causing aneurysms and heart valve disease. I am in the early stages, but it's pretty bad at times, and sometimes I'm not able to help as much as I used to. I think she is in denial as she kind of brushes it off, and she refuses to acknowledge the fact that I'm not going to be around as long as we thought, not to mention the disability this will cause later down the road. Come to think of it, this behavior did start while I was being diagnosed. It took them 2 years and they thought I had cancer. I do remember her telling me that her grandma died in a horrible accident and that she lost it and stopped believing in God because of it. Maybe she is pushing me away because she knows my time is shortened. Maybe it's because I gained 45 pounds from the medications I have to take. I don't know, it's hard to say. I will be seeking help. I'm just not ready to leave yet. Call me an enabler or whatever you wish, but in the end, I want to say that I gave it my all, and at this point I don't know that I have. Here's the flip side to all of this. There was a 1-year span where I yelled a lot. I didn't withhold affection or demeanor, but I was certainly crabby. I worked 50 hours a week and was going to school for my bachelor's degree. This does not condone my behavior. This is just a piece of the pie. My point is, she stuck it out, I wised up and mellowed out, and afterwards things were great, until she started acting in that manner. Her actions are much more extreme, but nevertheless shouldn't I stick it out at least for a little while? I mean, I haven't even gone to any counseling yet to work on my own issues. My point is I want to make sure I did my part to make it work. If this action continues and at some point I feel like I have done everything I could, then I'm gone. But until then, I feel like I have a little more work to do. I took this approach in my first marriage. She left me for a coworker, and when it happened, I can say I did everything I could to make it work, and I feel pretty darn good about it. 4 years later. So, this pretty much sucks. About a month and a half ago I found a bunch of texts and dirty photos of my wife from the waist up. All of them were very explicit and basically was cheating. I confronted my wife and at first, she wouldn't even respond. I'm pretty sure she was having a heart attack at this point. She owned up to it and said it was texting only, no physical contact. Right away she said she would end it with him and she'd stay with me, and wanted to work it out. In her words, please let me fix us. We have been working on our marriage for a little while now and things are definitely better than before. But I can't shake the feeling that she is not telling me everything and she seems to still be a little sneaky about what apps she puts on her phone, and lately she has been using her browser in private mode on her phone. It makes me think she's hiding by something, but when I ask, she immediately tells me what she is doing. It's so weird. She's not doing anything inappropriate and she's always willing to show me, but it seems like she just can't share everything with me. Keep beef like a rebellious teenager. I feel like I'm losing my mind and I'm no longer able to focus on our relationship, but rather I'm focused on catching her in the act again. The problem is, it seems like she's either really good at hiding it, or she's not done anything. How do I shift my focus to things that really deserve my attention, like my children? She was sending them to a much older married man she met at work. He's a member of the club she works for. She won't tell me his name. I'm on the same page you are. I'm pretty sure she was banging him, just can't prove it. We both use iPhones. She actually gives me full access to her phone anytime I want, and the only app she has is Snapchat, but she doesn't use it much. I've seen her friends on there and they are definitely not him. They are people we both know and the messages are very far between. Here's the thing, I'm pretty tech savvy. I can get into almost anything. That's how I found out in the first place. She can barely figure out how to use her phone and I have to constantly fix it for her. She's only been seeing this guy since October 2019. I probably should have said that in the first place. So, unless she has a burner phone sitting around someplace, there's no way she could even fart without me knowing. I actually feel guilty about this though, like I'm invading her privacy. I'm guessing that's why I feel so crappy about it. I know they have been sleeping together, that's without question. I even have a GPS log of where she met him at a hotel. But because I actually did not catch them in the act, she says she can't explain the log. I called her out on it and she sticks to her story. Yes, it hurts, but for the sake of my kids, we are working through it. I know for a fact she is not seeing him anymore, and they don't work together. She works at a golfing club he belongs to. Our bonding life has been not good for a long time, but that had more to do with postpartum mood issues. One of the reasons she told me she did it in the first place was because she actually started feeling like bonding was good again, and she had turned me down so many times that she was ashamed to come to me. She certainly could be lying, but I honestly don't think she is. Time will tell, I guess. 2 years later, was a mistake. I found out she's sending random texts to men again. I think the previous affair has enabled her curiosity. I am drafting a divorce letter as I am typing this. I will serve the letter to her workplace. Despite making the mistake of I did enjoy our family time with the kids for the past 2 years. I came to the realization I need to build or find a better family for my kids, and she is not a part of this. I hope some of you don't make the same mistake as I did. My comment: you have given all the power in this marriage. Instead of playing the man card demand she tells the guy is and exposing him. Instead of telling her to take a polygraph. Instead of exposing her to her family, you're just going to pretend nothing happened. Get yourself check out for STD and file a SAP. Story 2. H and I have been together since I was 20 and he was 21. We have lived together for over 10 years and were married in 2014. We had planned to start a family in 2015, but unfortunately, I had a miscarriage in February 2015 and was actually in fertility treatment when his affair exploded and destroyed our marriage. H and I always got along well, had similar interests and goals, lived a comfortable life, but did have our fair share of ups and downs, including my H's alcohol addiction, for which he received treatment for in 2016. And as I said, somehow, we managed to work through things. I thought we were best friends, partners in everything, business and life, and everyone in our life always thought of us as the perfect couple. And no incidents of cheating from either of us until 2017. 2012 was a hard year for us. Miscarriage. H had a close family member commit suicide in March. My father died unexpectedly in September and we started fertility treatments as we were having trouble getting pregnant again. H also began an E with a subordinate in July 2017. I now am aware of this, which he claims did not become a PA until December 2017. However, I believe it became a PA in Oct. Over the summer I started noticing O texting my H a lot. O is married with a 6-year-old child. Her texts all seem to be asking stupid work questions, complaining about her husband and kid and other stupid comments. It seemed like my H barely responded, and for every 10 texts she sent, it seemed he would respond only once. Since I was never the jealous type and trusted my H, I tried not to make a big deal out of this but did warn him that they were not friends but he was her boss. So be careful, because this girl had left her last employer after claiming harassment, and of course I did not want H to get in trouble. H agreed and just said she was some stupid girl who texted everyone. I then began noticing in August that he was working later and later. He always worked 70 hours a week, but was not coming home on his nights off, etc. And this was bothersome to me as we were trying to get pregnant, and I was very depressed over the miscarriage. At the end of August, I began noticing that every time my H and I would be out together, she would always text him that she was going to quit her job because she just could not take it, etc., etc. And we began fighting about his relationship with this girl, as I felt it was inappropriate. By September, he was always at work, and 90% of his text messages that month were to O, and when my father was in the hospital dying, she was texting him. Oh, and she also was texting him in the middle of my father's funeral. By October, he was acting even odder, hardly home at all. We barely spent time together. When I accompanied him on a business trip to NYC in October, she texted him that she was quitting because she could not handle it anymore. All this time, he refused to admit anything was going on. We started fertility treatments in October, and he also began running late at night. I now know he was texting her. Needless to say, we were arguing about the texting. He kept gaslighting me and I was getting angrier and angrier, but never thought he would really cheat. Everything blew up in November when we had a huge fight about the texting. He made me cancel our vacation to Hawaii. I intercepted a text to O stating I made my wife cancel our trip. I caught him via the iPhone finder in parking lots, and he left me at the fertility doctor as I was making the IVF appointment. He actually took off and texted me, "Sorry, I do not want kids. You need to find someone else who can give you a family." It has now come out that O told him to tell me this. He refused to spend Thanksgiving with me. My father was barely dead, and I then got all the "we grew apart, have not been happy for years," and all the other infamous lines. At this point I had enough, as he was acting like a stranger and had become mean and nasty to me. He had always been kind and gentle with me. So I moved money to protect myself to be able to pay our bills and drew up my divorce papers. I am an attorney. I did all of this without telling him. However, my H never asked for a divorce, nor did he speak with a lawyer. All this time he was still gaslighting me and his family, claiming he was not cheating. But we fought all the time. We never should have gotten married, and that O was just someone that he talked with because they were both in bad marriages. He then began spending time with O outside of work a lot. Not admitting it, but I hired a pie and found out more info. All the time, he was still lying about having an affair and blaming me. So, at my sister-in-law's insistence, and after reading on Tam about the importance of exposing an affair, I contacted O husbands, who believed everything I told him, as he had been receiving the same treatment and he provided me with a wealth of information. OWH even stated that most likely his wife started this, as my H made a lot of money and O had asked him for a divorce in November, but OWH would not let her move out with the son, so O stayed. After my H and O found out, I contacted OWH. As expected, all hell broke loose. My H was not happy and O began texting me the nastiest messages, at first denying the affair, but then she slipped up and admitted that she and my H were going to be very happy. My H then disappeared for 3 days, one of which was my birthday, and went to meet O in New Jersey at a training seminar their employer was paying for. All this time, he was sending me nasty texts about let's separate, divide our money. He was going to move out but would not pay for the bills. However, when I would ask him in person about these texts, he never had any recollection of saying he was moving out, etc. I think O was texting me from his phone. At this point, I was just waiting to serve him with divorce papers, and he had no idea that I had a pie report, phone records, expense receipts, etc. My plan was to surprise him with divorce papers, so I just kept smiling and nodding at him when he would laugh at me because he thought I wanted to reconcile. At this point I had not exposed to his work because I knew it may not be taken seriously, and my H and O would just lie. So, in mid-December 2017, I had now retained a divorce lawyer. I sent the constable to H's office with the advice to pull my H, O, and H's boss out of the daily 8 a.m. sales meeting and serve them all. So, I served H with divorce papers, no fault, subpoenaed O to depose her, and served his boss with a subpoena for H's emails with O, financial information, etc. My H was hysterical that I did this and was calling his family crying that he was going to be fired. I was vindictive and I made up the whole affair. O was pissed and H's boss and the corporate lawyers were over the edge. After serving him, he finally retained a lawyer and we hardly spoke for 7 weeks. We did not even wish each other a Merry Christmas. He was deep in the fog and not coming out. I had also exposed his affair to all of our friends around the time H was served. However, H still denied the affair, but since we were still living in the same house, and still are, his activities were obvious. He showed no signs of ending the affair and I began to find hotel reservations for New Year's, receipts for shoes for O, etc. All this time, I tried to implement the 180, went out with friends and tried to keep busy, even though I was dying inside as I loved him and so wished we could fix the marriage. He then refused to sell the house and told me he would never sell, would not pay me my percentage of the house, and would fight to give me nothing. I would always just respond that as a litigator, I was more than prepared to fight and I had the stomach for litigation, but thought we should just try to settle so we could both move on. By January, H's O had moved out of her home into a hotel, so H was there most nights but never officially moved out, and because she has a kid, H was often home on Friday and Saturday nights to watch me go out to socialize. I then noticed that H began calling his sister. I am very close with her and she has supported me 100%, to find out about my whereabouts, asking around to see if I was dating. I caught him eavesdropping on me, and when he was home, he began asking me to go to hang out. I always declined. He began contacting me about stupid stuff, to which I always responded in a non-emotional, businesslike manner. By the end of January, I had begun to move on, and even though I was devastated at losing the life we had built, I was trying to cope, and it was then that he began asking me if we could meet because we really needed to consider what we were doing. Divorce was really a serious thing, etc. At this point I had no interest in meeting with him, as I knew he was still in the affair and I thought he was playing some type of game. But reluctantly I agreed to meet with him, and he admitted he had an affair with O. It never was supposed to happen. He wanted his old life back, and he really believed he was not happy in the marriage because O kept putting me down and telling him he was miserable. He said he was sorry and the affair was over and he was willing to do whatever it took. He said he had ended affair, but it was a tough situation because they worked together, etc. I told him calmly and coldly. I did not trust him, thought this was a game, so I did not depose the O. Her depot was scheduled for February, and besides he had spent the night before at O's hotel room. He still insisted he had ended it that day because she was not a good person, and he had a dream that we reconciled, had a family, and lived happily ever after. He also told me O had now moved into an apartment and had begged him to move in with her, but he had refused because he wanted his marriage. I was still not buying his talk, but after almost 2 weeks, I stupidly began to soften, as he had been home every night, not being secretive of his phone, calling to check in, asking me to go on vacation. I declined, and being helpful around the house. I then found text messages from her one morning and he swore it was over. It was just a tough situation as they worked together, but he had a job opportunity in another state that would pay him a lot more money. So I could quit my job and either move with him or split my time between our home and the new location. He told me he thought we should get back to the IVF and have a baby. I kept telling him that no, I will not consider R until we go to MC. He goes to NC with O, quit his job, etc. He agreed to MC, something he had refused all fall because he said I was the one who needed help, not him. However, a few days later he started acting odd again, telling me that he got called in by the corporate lawyers again to be questioned about his affair, and that they told him I was vindictive, etc. He then told me he lied to the lawyers to save his job by denying the affair and telling them I was mentally ill. He said he was sorry, but he could not lose his job. He then took off for the next 3 nights to stay at the O's apartment. Come to find out, they had gotten back together because she went crazy telling him she gave up her H and kid to move into an apartment so they could be together and start their lives. He then showed up at our house, begging for another chance, and the cycle of his games had now begun. We then went to a marriage counselor. H said he wanted to end affair, but counselor sensed H was ambivalent. We went to counseling twice, discussed boundaries. H explained that he was going to break it off officially the night before he left for vacation, so by the time he got back O would be over him. MC and I told him this were not realistic, but he disagreed and promised he would stay at the house and not go to O's apartment anymore. Well, for that week, he was home every night and O was sending him nasty messages, mainly about how horrible I was and how could he do this to her, and begging him to stay with her, etc. H began showing me all her text messages. She is a bunny boiler, and starting almost vomiting information about O, telling me she was a bad person, that she had told him she would pay my alimony. O wanted him to get a quickie divorce and then she would get divorced so they could get married, that O was not a good mother, etc. etc. He informed me that in January O made him promise that he would never speak to me ever again, and that O was obsessed with me, my life, and constantly bashed me. This went on for 5 days, with O getting madder and madder, buying him stuff for his vacation, sending him notes begging for him not to leave her and telling him please do not let your wife break us up, etc. Well, the night before his trip, he sent her a text message ending their affair and telling her NC and they were just now co-workers. She exploded, sending 56 texts in under 10 minutes. He seemed confident but did tell me that he felt bad because she had feelings. I told him I did not care about his or her feelings, I cared about the abuse I endured. He then called me that Saturday, March 9th, from work to tell me he was really sorry. He knew he should end it and want to put his marriage back together, but he just felt too bad for her as she gave up everything for him. I was gutted but not surprised. I told him good luck in life and I was pushing the divorce through faster and hung up. I then exposed his latest drama to our loved ones. When I saw him the next day, it was like I was looking at the same man who lied to me all fall. He was deep in the fog. It seems that when my H is around me, he acts like the guy I have always known, but when he is with O for a while, he completely changes. O has noticed this as well because she has commented to him about this. So, he was gone at O's for a few days and then arrived home, refusing to leave the marital bed. We had previously separated rooms, with me moving to a guest room, but I then decided after he called me mentally ill to move him to a guest room and reclaim the master bedroom, and telling me he does not want to get divorced but needs more time. I told him too bad, I want a divorce. He then spent 2 nights at home refusing to leave my bed, no bonding, and then spent 2 nights at O's apartment. By last Friday when I arrived home from work, he accused me of leaving a religious picture on his windshield while it was parked at O's apartment. I did not such thing, and while I know where she lives, it is over 45 minutes from our home, and that he had a new plan to break up with her. I told him I did not care, that I wanted this embarrassment of a marriage over with, but he proceeded to inform me that he was going to tell her I was sick. I again told him I was done and went out. Well, the next night we had a family obligation to attend together, and when he arrived, he informed me that he had ended the affair again. He then shut off his phone for over 12 hours because he did not want to see her text. We had dinner together Sunday, and he informed me that when she cornered him in his office, cried that how could he leave her, how could he let me break up their true love, etc. But he had told her it was over. Well, since Sunday she sent with 1,000 text messages, no exaggeration. The content of these messages was shocking, claiming I miscarried and we never had a child because God killed our baby so H and O could be together, etc. etc. Every single text message included a reference to me and how evil I was for breaking up their true love. O is still married, has not filed for divorce, has left her son with her husband to play house with mine, how he has always been miserable with me, our marriage was hell for him, etc. H allowed me to read these texts and ignored her, except to say she should go back to her husband. I have informed him NC is NC, but he seems obsessed that if O goes back to her husband then she will leave him alone. Of course O is refusing to go back to her husband because she has morals and has now sleeping with my H, so how could she ever reconcile her marriage? My H swears he is done with her, but they work together and she has told him she will not accept his decision to end this. H has tried to end affair 4 times now but keeps going back. While I know he needs to be firm with her, it is just such a crazy and dramatic situation considering they work together. I have read all about cake eaters, obviously H is one, but I just do not understand why he cannot just be done with this if he really wants to our marriage. Now I have not committed to reconciliation because his affair has not really ended, and despite my being unsure if I really want I just am having a hard time detaching and applying the 180 again. I just cannot figure out if he is sincere about wanting to end the affair but it truly is an addiction and with them working together makes it impossible, or if he just wants to be a cake eater and has no idea what he intends to do. While I know what matters most is what I want, part of me still loves him, for some strange reason after all he has done, and I'm so confused by this insane situation. This is an insane way to live and I have always hated drama. He is still financially paying for all household bills, after he gave me trouble in December, but it is very hard living in the same house and he will not move out. O wants him to move in with her but he has refused, so he has told me. And apparently O has done similar things with other before and has quite the reputation. Unfortunately, as crazy as O's text messages are, she has not been sending them directly to me, so I really cannot get a TRO against her. She did send my H a text on Monday stating I am going to kill you, but H ignored it. Both H and O are acting insane. Apparently, they keep denying they are having an affair at work, but everyone knows, they just keep lying and think everyone believes them. Co-workers of theirs have informed me of their delusional beliefs. My H also is still wearing his wedding ring to keep up the facade. H was also up for a promotion, but due to his recent behaviors, which he is still denying to his work, it appears he may not get it. He really threw everything we had worked for and built away. In December, my H wanted to get the divorce over with quickly, but now he seems to want to drag it out, says he does not want a divorce. H has not provided his financial statement as requested by my attorney, so now that complicates things. H has also violated the financial restraining order imposed on both of us per the pending divorce on 2 separate occasions, by refinancing rental property and taking money without my permission. H also refuses to put the marital home up for sale and refuses to buy me out, so I will have to get a court order for this. H is just making this process unnecessarily complicated, and H even has his lawyer believing all his lies. H just believes he is above it all. I believe he may be a narcissist. I really need to detach, it is just so hard. But I have no choice now. I just do not understand how anyone could carry on like this and still claim they do not want a divorce, when months ago they did, and talk about future vacation, home improvements, etc. It is just beyond me. Update. H began IC, went once, going again this week, and allegedly at this session they discussed that he should not go back to his affair and that the counselor told him that our marital issues, his affair, were not that surprising considering we had a miscarriage, 2 significant deaths, and fertility issues. I do not believe any legitimate counselor would say all of this, and H seems to think these tragedies justify his affair, at least that is how I see it. Oh, and H told me that his counselor stated that if we had had a baby, H would never have cheated. It just gets more ridiculous. So now H has decided we should have a baby. This will not be happening, because it would fix all of our problems and get O out of our lives for good. He even asks me about my cycle now. Of course, he had no interest when we were actually trying to conceive. H is supposedly still not seeing the O. Yeah, right. I do not believe him. O is still texting all kinds of hateful things to him, mainly about me, and honestly her thoughts are evil. I cannot even imagine thinking, let alone saying, texting such things. Examples of these almost comical yet diabolical messages include, why can't I get my own man? Just because they are not officially married doesn't mean she is not entitled to him. They are family now. I am not his wife anymore. He doesn't love me. He loves her. Criticizing my appearance, telling him to ask his mom because she knows his mother would tell him to choose her. Not true. My in-laws have been very supportive of me, and my MIL thought this comment was crazy. She still refers to me as the CT and that I have no right ruining the most beautiful thing she has ever had. Oh, and the latest is she threatened my H that she was signing up for online dating. O has allegedly been making scenes at his work. They are co-workers. Threatened to tell their boss that H promised to leave me and be with her forever and take care of her, etc. O, and she allegedly filed for D from her H, but then brought blank divorce papers into a sales meeting and announced in front of people that she would not be needing them anymore. But now she says she filed again. Who knows, they are so dramatic. It just goes on, and if this was not my life, it would be hilarious to witness. I have become the perpetrator in their sick love triangle, to which I have told my H I want no part of. However, he keeps blabbing this info to me. I know I should not listen. It is so hard to detach. We have attended MC 2 more times, as I wanted to use MC counseling to create a plan to have a separation in the house and try to get some honesty, but I think the MC is not very effective, as the counselor seems to coddle my H. It's bizarre. Counselor says things such, even if H wants to reconcile, that he cannot just turn his feelings off for O or jump back into our relationship, etc. etc. To which I have responded that even if I considered R, these thoughts are unacceptable to me. He would be either in or he is out. No moping, etc. MC does not seem to appreciate, nor does my H, that I want to take the hard line here. It is obvious H is playing at breaking up with her. Someone used that phrase in response to my previous post and I liked it, as he refuses to block her number because she will embarrass him at work about it. Sounds like she may, but still he should not have behaved in a way to embarrass himself. Has not really aggressively looked for another job. Has updated his resume, but I really believe they are in contact more than I know. I still believe they are either together, with her texts meant to upset me, or he will go back to her in a matter of minutes, days or hours. I mean, they are soulmates. Hate that word. As for my divorce proceedings, H says he will not divorce me still, and if I really want a divorce, he will give me 20% of everything. How generous. I told him I would take a chance with a judge. H thinks he is trying to R because he arranged for us to meet at the restaurant bar where we first met. I left after it became clear he was wanting to rug sweep everything, and because he is telling people we are getting back together. We are also both in a wedding this summer as an usher and bridesmaid, so that may be interesting. H also seems preoccupied that I was dating after I served divorce papers. I was not. Has told me that I was spotted, that I went on more than a dozen dates and people told him I was dating. None of this is true, but I am assuming he says it because then he thinks that my conduct is equal to his. Give me a break. I have met some nice guys, one in particular, when I have been out, but I am in no way ready to date anyone. It would not be fair to them or me, so hopefully when I am ready, I can meet a nice man who will be loyal, honest, and appreciate me. Also, I do have guy friends who have continuously told me not to take him back because he thinks I am his doormat, etc. Am lonely though and upset that at 33 I may never have the family I always wanted. So, the drama has not stopped. I need to detach further, but we will have to continue living in the same house until H agrees to sell, buys me out, or the house is ordered sold by the court. I have been seeing my own IC since November but do not know if it is really helping, and am thinking I need anti-anxiety meds perhaps, as the days just seem to get worse and my anxiety is through the roof. It is still so sad to me that this has all happened. Wish I could get to the anger stage, or better yet, indifference. It just seems that everywhere I go something reminds me of all our time together, the good times, and I also wish I did not love him so much, but I guess you have to go through hell to get to heaven sometimes. A lot easier said than done. I just wish H had listened and reformed when I caught the EA, or maybe been a loyal H, as well as that I could actually believe he was remorseful. H keeps saying he does not want to be with O regardless of what happens with us. So, while every day is something new, I need to start thinking of me. I think that is the gist. Sorry I am so long-winded. Have repeatedly told him if he loves O and they are soulmates that he should be with her, as far be it from me to get in the way of true love. I have been saying this since before I served D papers. I thought it was effective months ago, but it seems when she wanted him to move in with her, he balked and wanted to come home, not faithfully and committed, but he was not ready to commit to her maybe. I cannot push the D through any faster because he won't cooperate, nor will he be reasonable, so it will take some time. In December he wanted a quickie divorce, told me this and his attorney. I agreed and said give me 60% of the assets and 6 years of alimony. This is the max I can ask for under the law, but he would not agree and his counteroffer was insulting basically. Told me to take half the money in the bank and go. So, no quickie divorce. I guess even O encouraged him to give me what I wanted but he wouldn't. She even offered to pay his legal fees and help him pay my alimony. Probably should have worked out my details with her. As for why I have not moved out, initially my attorney advised me not to, as H was paying all the bills etc. And I do not have any family in the area I can stay with. We also have dogs and a cat, so that complicates me staying with friends, who all have their own lives going on. When I served D papers, our in-house separation was working out okay, as we have a large home. We're never really home at the same time. He was spending most nights with her, and we barely spoke at all for 8 weeks. We only started speaking again when he decided to play his R games, and after weeks of this I began to soften. Stupid me, but at first, I thought he may have been sincere, as I had exposed affair, filed for D and embraced the 180. Their craziness really amped up after each time, 2 times that I am aware of. Supposedly it was really 4 times. He allegedly broke it off with her. On several occasions, I asked him to move out, to go live with her or his family. I even offered to help him pack and said I would drop his stuff off at her apartment. Even bought moving supplies and begged him to move in with her, but each time he refused, saying he would never leave his house. So, I really tried to get him out, but he would never go. I do not do anything for him like laundry, dry cleaning, cooking, etc. anymore. He just loves his house and will never move. We will need a court order to sell the house because he refuses to put it on the market or even buy me out. I always thought he would leave to move in with her or try to get me out to move her into our house, but I do not think that was his plan. So unfortunately, this will not be an amicable divorce and he will probably attempt to spend all our money on attorney's fees just so I do not get any money in the end, as he plans to just rebuild his financial status after divorce. This is a lot easier for him than me considering the differences in our income. H also says he is opposed to divorce because he feels bad and does not want to see me live in an apartment and drive an inexpensive vehicle and see my lifestyle suffer. Seriously, he is unbelievable and he says that means he loves me. Give me a break. As for him showing me the text, yes, he has shown me these texts, as it was part of his complete transparency and pledged to tell me anytime there was contact between them. All of this was per the MC and my H supposedly reading about ending his affair on the internet. He then deletes the text, which is so stupid considering he is her boss and the text may be useful to him someday, but oh well. I have not read any in a while, as I have told him I am not interested in him out of their little drama. All of O's crazy texts, including I just want to kill you, do not seem to faze H. She has not threatened or even contacted me. I do not think at this point she will. It is odd that H is not disgusted and embarrassed that he got involved with a person who could act like this, but then again, he is far from the paragon of virtue, because to any sane person this is so not normal. H just seems to ignore O's rambling texts, as H has always ignored unpleasant things hoping they will go away. H just seems to really want O to go back to her H and kid. He apparently told her to do this, because she has told him and he feels responsible for ruining her home and forcing her to leave her H, who knows neither of these two are playing with a full deck of cards here. Yes, they are both insane. H always had a good reputation and was a successful and respected man who hated drama, so this situation is almost surreal. Apparently O has always been crazy according to their coworkers. She was called psycho. I was told this pre-affair. So, I just need to push D, detach further and move on. Still unbelievable to me that this is my life and this is my H, but it is. Just wish I could get to the anger stage or better yet indifference. Oh well, only time will heal this wound. Update. Well, in the last 6 months, life has turned for the better. Not initially, but I am now in a much better place and despite many ups and downs, I'm starting to live life again without my STBEX. I also wanted to say that everyone's assessment of my WH and his affair was correct and I wish I had listened sooner. It would have saved me months of pain. Since my last post, I made many stupid decisions, including attempting R with my WH. Throughout the months of March to May, my WH attempted to prove that his affair was over and despite his not meeting all of the boundaries I requested. We were attempting to R. He was home every night and would allow me to check his phone, but I was so unhappy and suspicious all the time. I was consumed with fear and suspicion that my life was even less enjoyable than before. I would be filled with fear and worry all day when he was at work and would not even begin to relax until he came home. WH works with O. The crazy texts from O kept coming. These texts were psychotic and allegedly WH never responded, but I began to find more and more evidence that this was a lie. Basically, he would just delete his replies. By the end of May, she threatened to commit suicide if he did not come back to her and just continued to go off the rails. And the worst part was he would ask for my advice as to how to handle all this. He still refused to block her number because he did not want her embarrassing him at work, still wore his wedding band and was still gaslighting me all the time. Thinking back, I cannot believe how stupid I was. I knew he was lying and gaslighting me, but I was so desperate to get my old pre-affair life back that it was almost as if I accepted his lies and any explanation he offered just so I would not rock the boat. But I was becoming more and more defeated and depressed every day. We still were an MC, which was a waste of time, and he was an IC, which was an even bigger waste of his time, because he would only stay for 30 minutes and then in June told me the IC discharged him because he was cured. OMG, it was just a circus. His stories and things he told me, people would not and do not believe. I know so much about his affair that I cannot even imagine what else there is to know. I honestly have a hard time even remembering some of the crazy stuff now because it just seems like it was a lifetime ago. We then went to NYC in the beginning of June, as I accompanied him on a business trip and our time together was not good. I was suspicious the whole time. She kept texting insane things about me and we had no bedroom life, as my husband was having issues. He developed a chafing type of rash on his area and it hurt him if it was touched, as well as my WH seemed to have no desire for me at all. Then a week after we came back from NYC, we left for a Mexican vacation that he planned to get us back on track. Big mistake. The first 2 days in Mexico were great. It seemed like we were back to our old selves and had lots of fun. He even purchased timeshare in both of our names. However, by the third day, he was completely withdrawn and wanted to just sleep and lie by the pool. This was not my WH before. He never even liked beach vacations because he always wants to be active. So, I began noticing more and more that he was withdrawing and it became apparent that it was because he missed her. See, he did not have his phone in Mexico, so he could not even text with her. I tried to dance around him and plan activities he would like, but he was not interested. He just wanted to sit by the pool or lie in the room watching TV. And of course, we hardly had any physical relationship and that took such a toll on my self-esteem. It was so bad that my WH was not attracted to me because pre-affair we never had any issues like this at all. So as the trip progressed, I became increasingly upset and agitated and my WH began talking differently, acting like he was back in the affair fog and I knew what was happening. I was so upset that I remember thinking how wonderful it would be if we could just stay in Mexico because then everything would be okay. God, I was so desperate and unhealthy. Well, on the morning we were flying home, I said something like he seemed to be on the fence again and he responded, "No, I am not on the fence anymore." By the time we got to the US for a layover, I had called my lawyer to speed things up and my WH looked at me and said he was so sorry, but he did not love me, did not want to be married to me and really wanted to have children but just not with me and had never wanted any kids with me. All of this on an escalator at the Houston airport. He then proceeded to disappear for the layover, but I stumbled upon him on the phone with her. We then had to fly back to the East Coast and I cried sitting next to him the whole flight back in first class. This was the first time I ever flew first class and I did not even get to enjoy it. We arrived home, he moved out to the guest room and at 11:30 p.m., packed some clothes and left to see her, leaving me standing in the kitchen. I was paralyzed and did not speak with him for 2 weeks. Also, it turns out that when we were in Mexico, Izzo called my office hysterical asking where I was. Was I on vacation in Mexico? Fortunately, my assistant knows what has occurred so she was prepared to deal with this. Had other people call my office looking for me and a suspicious vehicle was observed in my driveway and I think she may have been in my home but cannot prove it. I informed WH of this and he wasn't surprised at all, just asked if anything was taken. This was around mid-June and I was a mess, again. Well, with the help of my mother, WH's family, who has completely supported me and cannot believe WH is such a liar, and very, very good friends, I remember waking up on the morning of July 1st and I was happy. I had reached indifference to WH, a feeling I desperately wanted for so long. While I was scared about what was ahead of me, I knew it had to be better than the life with WH. I was happy and loving life. I had a great and busy summer. I was even in my WH's sister's wedding, so was WH, in July and had a great time. Of course, it helped that WH did not speak to anyone at the wedding and everyone kept telling me how divorce agrees with me and how awful he looked. Also, at this point WH was living with O every night except Saturdays and I just stayed away from him when he was in the house. Karma started kicking in for him in August, when he began calling me crying that he hated his life and needed to get away from her. The same story we heard in the winter, spring, except this time I was not buying it and I was happy. WH and O were fighting all the time. He was staying out all night on her and she was calling him crying O still has not filed for divorce. She wants WH to fill out the D papers for her. WH was not happy that she rearranged her work schedule to be identical to his and he did not like playing stepdad to her 8-year-old son. He never had a free moment and apparently, he was so miserable he was out drinking. He has a drinking problem, always has, and doing God knows what else 6 nights a week, without her. Oh, and he kept begging me to come back and now he wanted bonding from me. Did not happen. I do think he was cheating on her already. He then started staying at our home more, sleeping in my bed, etc. I tried to stay out of the home whenever he was there, but unfortunately that was not always possible. He then kept begging me not to divorce him and wanted to make the marriage work, etc. I did not buy any of his lines this time, and I know he just does not want to divorce me because he does not want to really commit to her, because as he has said, he cannot be with her. Look at what she did to her husband and child. However, he did just get back from an international vacation with her, which he denies, but I have proof and do not care. However, it's so funny that he loves me so much and wants to get back together, but takes a vacation to the Far East with his over the anniversary of my father's death, our wedding anniversary, and he missed a family funeral. He is crazy. He then proceeded to buy me flowers and an anniversary card when he returned home. However, I am proceeding with D and would like it done ASAP. As for me, I never realized how many great friends I had, how much I am loved and so very lucky. Honestly, without my family, friends and this site, I do not know how I would have survived. Even my in-laws support me. They have not met her because WH won't introduce her. He continues to lie to them, and my mother-in-law is so upset at her son and has informed me she will never accept this relationship. My sister-in-law and I are closer than ever. I am the one who babysits her daughter, and I am the one who has a relationship with his family. He will not even talk to them and has told me he has to give them up because he has lied to them so much. Anyway, I had a very great summer. I have dated even though I did not plan to so soon. However, due to all the emotional abuse and turmoil I lived with, I was not ready, and unfortunately because of my trust issues I pushed away a nice man because I could not trust anything he said or did, even though he was completely trustworthy. I do feel awful that I hurt someone, but I had thought I was ready to date, and it was not until things started to slowly progress, and my WH appeared again and started bothering me with more of his lies and deceit, that my trust issues started to appear. I actually had not realized how emotionally damaged I was from my years with WH. I guess it is a lesson learned, but I just wish I did not hurt anyone else's feelings in the process. My comment: don't get surprised if you see him at the newspapers very soon. They both seem so volatile. Glad to hear you are finally moving on from insanity. Subscribe if you haven't, and I will prepare a longer video soon.